Police find a wrecked car just off the highway down a steep embankment. There's blood around, but no driver to be found. Just hours earlier, 2 worried parents were wondering when their son would be home. And now, he was missing, seemingly without a trace. Was this a case of a young man ending his own life? Or is there something more to the story? This week's episode is Bryce Laspisa. A bump in the night, your heart fills with dread. Probably a murderer who wants you dead. It could be a ghost, a demon, or worse. Perhaps you're the victim of a witch's curse. It's hopeless, you're doomed. You'd call a priest if you could. You'd rather just listen to Sinisterhood. How are you?
I'm okay. It's been a week.
Wow.
You know, it's been a tough week for everybody. Let's just address it. And
for all of our international listeners, we're in Texas. We're about a couple hours away, 6 hours away. Would you say
from El Paso?
From El Paso,
about 6.
Where there's I'm sure you can't keep up with how many mass shootings there are.
It just in the past week, I believe there's been 3.
Yes, 2 on the same day.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
I have no comment. It's just,
yeah. He was, and the shooter was from Allen, which is not too far from Dallas. So,
a suburb north of Dallas.
Yeah. A friend of ours lost 2 loved ones
in the El Paso
in the shooting, left behind several children. So, our hearts go out to
just everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Something has to be done. Thoughts and prayers do not work. Hey, everybody, vote for people that will do something and enact change when the election comes up this year. We're not going to get too much more political than that.
There you go. Local, state, national, just everything matters.
Yes, everything matters. And especially people's lives matter.
I think so.
So, help them out.
Yeah.
Help your fellow person out.
You and I both had this conversation that, I don't know if it was on the air. We talk a lot. Well, we talk a lot when we get right before we start recording. Much less then we hit the record. But that we both, everywhere we go, look for exits.
Mm-hmm. We do.
Which wouldn't it be super dope if we didn't have to do that anymore?
I think so. It would also be super dope if I didn't wake up at 3 a.m. every night in a panic and then just have racing thoughts and anxiety for hours over my daughter growing up in a world like this.
That would be so nice for you to get to sleep throughout the night.
Where there aren't Kevlar backpacks are a thing now.
That's a thing now.
They are a thing.
It's
back to school, and that is a thing on shelves at REI and other sports equipment stores. Because they're necessary.
Describe what my face looks like.
You look like a fish that just got a hook in its mouth.
All right. Well, it's my face. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah. Yep. It's real bad, you guys. It's real bad.
I don't have the mental capacity or the emotional capacity or the time to argue on Facebook.
No, I told you before we started, for the past few days, I've kind of been social media silent because I just can't with people. Mm-hmm. I've posted a couple of things. And if I do post, sometimes I'll just post and that's it. I'm not scrolling or looking at stuff. Mm-hmm. And had to unfriend a couple people.
You know, it's always good to clean house.
I love the mute button. I love the unfollow button or the snooze button. But some people just straight up deserve to be unfriended.
Someone just said the most dumbass thing. I won't even repeat it. And had recently tried to sell me multi-level marketing weight loss products.
Well, then you know they're a dumbass.
So she was out. I was like, first, you call me fat. And second of all, you insult my intelligence with this Facebook junk that you're writing. So I was like, that's auto defriend.
Yeah, you don't have to do a 3-strike policy on that. That's a 2-strike.
And you know what? I remember her from high school and she was dumb back then.
So she really did have 3 strikes then.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Wow.
Well,
we'll try to be funny.
I'll tell you what, another thing that's been keeping me up at night is this week's subject matter.
You know, I
didn't know about this. So call me
didn't
stupid.
either. And
we had a listener request.
Yes, it was a listener suggestion in the Patreon Facebook group from Sarah Levy Wetmore. She suggested this. I said, I'm not familiar with that. And then she said, get ready to go down a rabbit hole.
She was not wrong.
And a rabbit hole I did fall down.
We appreciate our Patreon patrons because we get a lot of good ideas.
So, I mean, I think the past 2 episodes have been from that Facebook group.
Yes. And we got to talk about that. We were just on a podcast panel.
Yeah, we were.
We do want to shout out Badass Ladies of DFW. It is a women's empowerment group that is meant to connect entrepreneurs, business owners, people, artists, marketing, any sort of professional woman, connect you together and just basically empower each other through inspiration, but then also through networking connections. Yes. And if, you own a business and say, oh, I need to rebrand, and you want a female owned business to help you with that way you can support.
The Facebook group is so supportive.
Ladies.
Sandy Diaz Haley, who started it, is one of my new favorite people.
She's amazing.
She's a listener, and Sandy, we love you.
Shout out.
We loved being a part of the panel. It was so much fun.
She said at the podcast panel, it was the 2-year anniversary of when she had gotten laid off from her last job. And since that time, she took this kind of sad, some people would think of it as a setback thing. And what does Carrie Fisher always say? Take your broken heart and make it into art. She's made it into this amazing supportive group.
Good
so we're lucky to be on the panel with a couple other podcast hosts just talking shop. So, and we had some awesome future podcasters in the audience come up and talk to us. So thanks for everybody that came, and we hope to...
Tommy filmed a lot of it, and we're currently working on getting that together, and it will be up on our Patreon as well.
Yes, he got a lot of good footage.
So if you're interested in starting a podcast or just like behind the scenes stuff, I think you'll find it very interesting.
Yes, he got a lot of good footage. So yeah. Well,
cool.
This, like you said, this topic...
that Sarah recommended.
Neither
one of us knew about it. And
did not.
I am a sucker. One of the questions that Sandy asked us before the panel was your top 3 creepiest episodes you've done.
Yes.
And what was so interesting is we each had totally different ones.
Correct.
Mine are all, I realized my pattern is ones where they are not answered. The Lost Girls of Panama.
Yes.
Elisa Lamb.
Didn't you say, not Ben McDaniel. Did you say Ben McDaniel?
Ben McDaniel. Yeah, Ben McDaniel. Also, that one's just a
fun episode.
We all know number 13. But any of them where you're left with all these questions.
Yes.
And you don't know what happened, if there was a perpetrator, those are the ones that keep me up at night. Yours were all very violent crime based.
That's what makes me have nightmares.
Yeah. I also have nightmares of those, but as far as what sticks with me the most, it's these types where it's just a mystery.
Gone without a trace.
Yes. Those are the ones that keep me up at night. Yeah.
And it's similar to one of the cases that Billy Jensen does in his book that I was been listening to, where they just can't find someone.
Yeah.
But, through Facebook now, it seems like in the last 3 or 4 years, there's a lot of targeted ads that you can do and use facial recognition and stuff like that. So who knows? Maybe this case they'll make some strides in this case based on new technology.
Maybe. Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
So let's get into it. This week we are talking about Bryce Laspisa and his disappearance.
Let's get into it.
Bryce Laspisa was born to Mike and Karen Laspisa in Illinois on April 30th, 1994. The family of 3 lived in the quaint Chicago suburb of Naperville until Bryce graduated from Naperville High School in 2012. After that, the Laspisa family relocated to Laguna Niguel, California, and Bryce began classes at Sierra College in Rocklin, California.
We all lived in Chicago. I went to Naperville. Guess what restaurant I drove all the way to Naperville to go to?
That Italian one you love so much? Arby's.
Cece's.
In Chicago. I like how Arby's, I honestly felt in my heart it was going to be Arby's.
You just say it, your eyes got big. You were very hopeful. No, I don't know why. I just wanted trash. This was before I knew I couldn't have gluten. And at the time, in Chicago, of course, has the most amazing pizza. I'm a Giordano's.
You said, fuck it. I'm going to Cece's. Chicago, who is probably arguably the U.S. city best known for pizza. Yes. And you said, where's the Cece's? Yes. And how long will it take me to get there?
I had to get my pizza ole, which is the taco pizza.
Yeah, I know.
God, Cece's.
Cece's is good if you just want trash pizza that for $5 or whatever it is.
Do you want a lot of okay pizza or a medium amount of good pizza? And they're like, a medium amount of good pizza. He's like, well, that's not what I got. So it's like, sorry. I mean, we used to go there after football games on Friday nights.
In high school?
Oh, the good old Mesquite CC's.
Nice.
My parents used to go, this is the most successful CC's franchise in America.
Oh, is it? How did they know?
I think they talked to the owner. They were there all the time.
Oh, so they kept him in business.
Oh, probably. And they had like a senior special. As if CC's isn't cheap enough, the elderly get an even larger discount.
50 cents, all the pizza you can eat.
It's just free. Just as
they
much
just give
pizza.
it to you.
Yes. Please we have so much of it.
What's the place in Dallas now that's kind of a fancy?
It's called DeLuca's.
Yeah.
Which this is such a trash thing. I was with all my fancy coworkers, including like a very fancy partner. This guy knows like every type of fancy wine. He's like met celebrities. He's genius at what he does, but then also just very classy dude. Like sitting there, he's like, I'll have another slice of pizza. Let's have some wine. And I go, this is like a fancy season.
That's exactly what I said.
Where you don't have to actually stand up. They bring it to you. I was like, it's even better.
My entire table, I was there recently for 2 friends' birthday parties. They're a married couple. And at my table, we were like, this is just a CC's, but fancy.
And for a gluten-free person like myself, they let you choose 2 of their pizza flavors, and then they just make you a whole pizza.
That's awesome. I kept telling Tommy to do that because my one complaint was they did not have a lot of vegetarian options.
Oh, okay.
And it would be like 5 pizzas would come around before they would bring
margarita or something.
The cheese back. And I was like, Heather got them to bring her a pizza. Tell them you just want your own cheese pizza.
And then they brought me my own dessert pizza. At CC's, they would call it a pizzert.
There were so many dessert pizzas.
See, I can pick one. So my pizzert, I'm going to say it, which sounds like you exerted yourself while pissing. It
sounds like a different word for a queef.
Yeah. Well, me and my brother-in-law can't stop laughing about Pizookie at BJ's Brewhouse, which is a pizza cookie.
Oh, I've had it. It's delicious.
They make a gluten-free one, but Pizookie sounds like number 3. It's where you piss and dookie at the same time. It's a number 2. You're not going 1 or 2. You're going 3. Yeah. But at DeLuca, they brought me a whole pizza, and it was a Nutella pizza.
That was Tommy's favorite.
Oh, it was so good.
We took it a step further, though, and said they should have Xbox with like leather sofas. Because, at CC's you had like the Pac-Man.
Oh, that's true.
Table game.
Like the arcade.
Yeah, they should really up it. But then Tommy was like, because I said CC's has been around since the early 80s.
Since I was a baby child.
Yeah. How is it just now this is a thing? A fancy CC's is a thing.
How did we not think of this?
And Tommy said somebody at that CC's meeting, they had 2 directions to go. And they chose the CC's direction.
You know what? Maybe it's owned by CC's. We don't know. Maybe it's like, because you know that Motel 6.
They should call it Shishi.
It's very bougie.
Heyo.
Shishi. But Motel 6 is owned by Sofitel. So they have like fancy hotels and you know what? Your premium motels, but it's on, it's barbell system. So maybe there's a CC's in DeLuca. Man, we talked about pizza for what feels like upwards of an hour. Thank you for sticking with us.
Yes. Oh, but pizza is real good.
Sorry, man, that trip to Naperville, I'm still thinking about that CC's. God dang.
Well, Bryce was a gifted artist with an innate sense of creativity. He excelled in classes like industrial and graphic design. He was a good student and had a circle of friends. He stood at 5 feet 11 inches tall and had a shock of red hair that complemented his green eyes.
Yeah, he was, by all accounts, a friendly, popular kid.
Yeah. Very red hair.
He is. You could spot him in a crowd.
Shockingly red. Yeah.
We had a guy in high school that was like this. It was tall, redheaded, big green eyes.
Good combo. Red hair, green eyes. Pretty combo.
See him coming. It's like Jolene. I've been listening to a lot of Dolly Parton.
Oh, nice.
Sorry. Everything's a Dolly Parton reference.
His mother claimed Bryce could talk to her and his dad about anything and was, quote, an open book. He was described by friends as funny and charming and landed himself a girlfriend during his first year at Sierra named Kimberly Sly, whom he adored.
All things are going well.
So far.
Freshman year, get a girlfriend, have some friends.
Bryce began his sophomore year of college in August of 2013 and was excited to be back at school after spending the summer at home with his parents. By all accounts, it was to be a normal year. However, just 2 weeks after he returned to college life, Bryce's mom, Karen, received a startling call from his roommate, Sean, regarding her son's behavior.
Did you have college roommates?
Yeah, several.
Oh, really? Did you live in dorms or did you live in apartments?
When I went to Texas Tech, I lived in a dorm with a friend from high school.
Okay.
That is the quickest way to hate each other.
Yep.
And then when I was at UNT, I had 2 roommates in an apartment, and then I moved into a house with 2 other friends. So
similar. I had different...
several roommates over several different years.
I mean, and they see you day in and day out, and if you start acting a little strange, then they may call your parents.
Mine probably would have been if I'd started acting normal. They would have been like, something is very wrong.
Mine would be like, Heather is actually in her room. I was just like never home.
I wasn't either. Yeah. I especially like if I had a boyfriend or something, I was rarely home. According to Sean, Bryce's personality had suddenly changed after he had stayed up one night drinking hard liquor and taking the ADHD medication Vyvanse. Bryce's girlfriend Kim was also concerned. She said Bryce had recently texted her, saying she would be better off without him. When Kim asked if he was breaking up with her, he replied yes.
Wow, so he's sort of, that's, first of all, staying up all night, taking Vyvanse or Adderall, either one. Vyvanse is a slower release, but still an amphetamine.
It's very powerful from what I've read.
Oh, yes.
Especially if you do not need it.
Correct, and it's supposed to be less addictive than Adderall. And the way that the biochemistry is made up, you can't crunch it and snort it. You can't.
It's a pill.
Put it in water. Swallow. Yeah, Adderall you can crunch up and snort it.
Oh, I know.
Oh, damn.
I've done a lot of stupid things in my time.
Damn.
And that was one of the stupider things.
How did it make you feel when you
like I was having a heart attack?
So I took Adderall because I have ADHD and I was like a zombie.
So yeah, I didn't need it.
Yes.
I was just being
I was very
dumb
calm.
Fuck.
You know how I am and how I talk, and I'm like, when I was on it, I was like, hello.
Did it make you feel more focused?
Oh, 100%. I was at work and I said, I'm going to organize all these papers now. And I just sat there and organized the papers, and my boss came out and was like, what's going on? And I said, I'm getting the ticket booth organized. And she was like, who, have you been body snatched? She was like, why are you so quiet? And I was like, I don't know. My brain thinks about at least 6 things at once, and my brain was only thinking about one thing.
But you didn't like that?
It was silent. It was so sad and scary. It was an echo chamber. I hated it.
But you could focus and get things done.
I can get things done now. I can get like 3 things done at the same time. Man, it was wild. Some people like it, but I've tried to do more behavioral type modifications.
Yeah, that's good.
But just to show you when you need it.
Yeah.
And then I read a Rolling Stone article. It was a real bummer about a guy that didn't need Adderall. And then, I mean, it can cause suicidal urges.
Oh, yeah.
And it can
I didn't have any of those. And it was only once. But I was up all night with racing heart. Just like wanted to go back in time so bad.
You're like, just get it out of me.
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do. Just wait it out.
Well, because you get a build up in your system. And so the guy in the Rolling Stone article, so I mean, once you take one, the next day you got to take 2, the next day, not the next day, but eventually.
High again.
Yeah, so it really builds up, and it can do some.
Don't take drugs unless you need them, guys.
That's just a good advice.
Just good advice.
Just good advice.
Well, shortly after sending that text to Kim on August 28th, 2013, Bryce showed up at Kim's apartment in Chico, California, about 90 miles from his place. Kim was confused and heartbroken, but also seriously worried about Bryce's current state. Like Bryce's roommate, she decided to call his mom to tell her he was acting erratic and shouldn't be driving.
So that's 2 people that spend every day with this guy who start to get a feeling such that they feel it's necessary to call his mother.
Have you ever called a friend's mother because you were concerned about them?
No, I really,
that's interesting to me.
I've never seen somebody, I've never been in someone's presence that I think, oh man, they're bad.
I can't think of ever calling someone's mother either. I think I would have felt as if I were betraying them because I was ratting them out by doing something.
I mean, unless you're like, he's about to go off.
It's very telling that these are college kids that are probably drinking and experimenting too, and they're so worried about their friends' behavior because they're still just 19, 20. You would still think, they're under your mom's care.
I will say I did have a woman that lived in the same dorm with me in like the same building. She wasn't like a roommate, but that we got to be, okay friends or whatever. And she did exhibit what I have later found are signs of an eating disorder, like very extreme anorexia.
Yeah.
And it did make me concerned but I didn't ever call her parents. But then when we would be around her parents, she would kind of do things to make it seem like she was eating. But I mean, I sure still noticed that she wasn't.
Yeah. But you never thought to.
I didn't really call her parents because she wasn't like in bed sick, And again, like you said, you feel like you're ratting them out.
Yeah.
So that's
a tough one.
So I think this Bryce fellow was behaving in such a fashion that both his girlfriend and his roommate felt compelled.
Yes, yeah. Karen would later say that after speaking with Bryce, she felt confident that he was okay to drive and that he didn't seem distraught or heartbroken over the breakup. Karen told Kim to hand Bryce the phone. Bryce reassured his parents that he was fine. However, Karen suggested that she fly up there the next day to see him. While Bryce told his mom there was no need for that, he added,
I have a lot to talk to you about,
but didn't elaborate further. At Karen's request, Kim reluctantly returned Bryce's keys to him, making him promise that he would call his mom the next day. He took off from Kim's place around 11:30 p.m., and both Kim and Karen assumed he was headed home. When he called Karen just an hour and a half later at 1 a.m., he assured her he was fine, and she assumed he was safe in his bed. That was not the case.
That's a parent's worst nightmare.
You think you know. This entire story is a parent's worst nightmare.
I just think about my parents tracking me, when I was in Chicago and say, call us when you get home, call us when you get off the bus. Pre-iPhone days.
Oh, where you could see where you're at all the time? According to cell phone pings on towers throughout California, Bryce had traveled south, past Kim's house, and away from his place near Sierra College. The following morning at 11 a.m., Karen received yet another alarming call, this time from her car insurance company, who informed her that Bryce was in need of roadside assistance.
Your stomach drops.
Yes.
What's gone wrong? Although it's better than the cops calling you, I guess.
Roadside, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, roadside assistance. Yeah, maybe he's got a flat tire, a little fender bender or something.
Panicked, Karen called Bryce's roommate to check in on him and was told Bryce had never made it back home after talking with Karen the night before. So yes, your nightmare is now increasing.
You think he's safe in his bed?
Karen and Mike began searching for clues to locate Bryce's whereabouts. When they looked at their credit card statement, they noticed a $20 charge in the town of Buttonwillow, just a few hours from their house in Laguna Niguel. Now hopeful, Karen and Mike assumed Bryce was on his way home. Unable to reach Bryce on his cell phone, Mike called the business associated with the charge, Castro Tire and Truck. The owner, Christian, confirmed that he delivered 3 gallons of gas to a young man who was stranded on the side of the road at 9 a.m. that morning. Because it was now 11 a.m. and Bryce should have made it home by now, his parents, who just moments earlier were hopeful Bryce was on his way to them, now feared something may have happened to their son.
Well, this,
it's a roller coaster ride of emotions.
Yeah,
right now.
You get the call. Oh my God. Well, he was okay. I gave him gas. But where is he at now? And why didn't he call us and say I ran out of gas? That's something, I would
have a lot of questions that I would want answered now.
Yeah, and as a college student, I call my parents if you let a fart, you call your parent,
Right.
Call and say, oh, I think, my favorite is I called and said, I think I have a staph infection on my thigh. I think I need to go to the doctor. And my mom said, text a picture to your cousin, Amy, who's a nurse. And I texted her a picture and she just wrote back, that was a bruised dummy. But stuff like that where it's like, oh my God, like anything, I was like, oh my God, I have to call my parents.
Yeah, I still call my mom about stuff.
Yes, same.
Yeah.
But he seemed to just be rolling through the mountains, calling nobody.
Hearing the concern in their voice, the shop owner offered to go back to the spot where he had helped Bryce to see if he was still there. To Christian's astonishment, Bryce was still sitting in his car, 3 hours after initially receiving help. He told Bryce how worried his parents were and called them so they could speak to their son.
That's above and beyond for a tire shop owner.
He's probably a parent. And you just hear that concern and desperation in another parent's voice.
And they're like, we're so far. Can you just do anything?
Can you please go? And I would do the same thing. Good for him. Good for this man. If you live in Buttonwillow,
please go see Castro Tire.
Castro Tire and Truck some business. Bryce spoke to his mother on the phone. And after being asked what he was doing, he simply told her,
nothing.
Confused yet relieved, Karen told Bryce to fill up the tank and head home to Laguna Niguel. Bryce then got gas at a local gas station and presumably headed towards his parents' house. Bryce was now expected to arrive home at 3 p.m. When he didn't show up, his parents began frantically calling his cell phone, but he wasn't picking up. It had now been 6 hours since anyone had heard from Bryce. Karen and Mike decided to call the Orange County Sheriff's Department and officially file a missing persons report.
You'd have to. You can't. He's expected home at a certain time. You don't see him.
Here's where I'm going to start interjecting.
You got a lot of hot takes.
I have been legitimately angered by this case for the simple fact that go get in your fucking car and drive to your son.
There was no indication in mine or your research, correct me if I'm wrong, that they were unable to leave the house,
no.
that they only had one car, that they both had to work, that they had a physical...
Even all of those are just excuses.
Physical
your son,
disability.
Something is going on with your son.
You're bedridden.
I've seen them both in interviews. They're perfectly healthy adults.
Something.
They just
it's like
weren't getting in their car and going to find him.
We have babies at home. We can't let...
Again, all of that is just an excuse. If I found out my kid had been sitting...
Weird.
For 3 hours on the side of the road after receiving help from roadside assistance, after having gotten 2 calls from his friends saying he was behaving erratically, he was taking these drugs he shouldn't be taking. Get in your fucking car and go find him. One of you stays at home in case he keeps trying to call or he shows up.
Split
the other
and
one
conquer.
Gets out in their car and drives to this place. He's been there for 3 hours. The chances are he's still going to be there when you get there.
Or you'll
probably
pass
pretty
him.
high. Yeah, or you pass him on the highway.
Yeah.
Just sitting there?
Honestly, I don't understand. When I had the weird attack, I told you when I took that Cipro antibiotic and I felt like my skin was crawling and I was not close. My parents live in Mesquite. It's probably 35 or 40 miles away from where I was. And I just parked my car and was like, my skin's crawling. I'm pulling off my acrylic nails and taking off my clothes. Like I was like having a weird reaction, which is a known reaction to this. They drove out. They got in the car and drove out.
Yeah, of course.
They didn't want to drive in rush hour traffic in Dallas, which is, a punishment into itself.
But their daughter was in need and they were going to help her.
And they
That's
came and
what
got me.
Parents do.
Yeah, this is a interesting reaction.
It's going to get a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
The police obtained an emergency ping order from AT&T that showed Bryce's cell phone was pinging off towers only 8 miles away from the gas station where he filled up his tank. This meant Bryce had traveled a mere 8 miles in the past 9 hours.
This is when it's even more erratic.
Yes.
Okay.
Police went to check on him. When he was approached by deputies, Bryce showed no signs of being drunk or high and was in fact friendly, talkative, and alert. When they searched Bryce's car with his permission, they found nothing out of the ordinary. Deputies let him know that his family was worried and asked Bryce what he was up to. Bryce replied,
"We're just blowing off some steam." Well, he could at least get it together if he was behaving erratically, calm enough to talk to the police and soothe their concerns.
Not wanting to face a worried mother, the cops told Bryce he needed to call his mom. They were surprised when Bryce hesitated. Instead, he asked, could the deputies call her for him and then put him on the line? They agreed, and after Bryce talked with his parents, deputies felt comfortable letting Bryce drive himself home. Okay. So now the cops have shown up. His parents have talked to the cops. There's ID Discovery has a series called Disappeared. They did an episode on this case called The Road to Nowhere, which I watched. And it interviews both of the parents. And Karen says when she's talking to the cops, she says, is he okay to drive? And they assure her he is and everything. Who cares what they say? Your kid has been acting weird and sitting on the side of the road for 6 hours.
Yeah, that's true. If he only drove 8 miles in 9 hours or something, I mean, I
would say to the cops, can you please keep him there or take him to the station? And I'll come get him. I am on my way. I would not let him drive. Two people have now said he shouldn't be driving. There's no explanation for his behavior. He can't tell you what he's doing. Something isn't right.
Yeah. And granted, they couldn't know that this would end how it ended. But still,
maybe some intervention would have prevented it.
Something along the way, because like you said, it's not that he was just trucking along and had a flat tire and now he's stuck. He only moved like 8 miles in 9 hours. That's bizarre.
Very.
And he didn't say, "Hey, Mom and Dad, I pulled over at a rest stop so I could sketch the mountains because it was so beautiful and I just needed to sit here." They're like, "What are you up to, buddy?" "Nothing."
Yeah.
It's like,
in another report, someone said he told her, "I'm going to hang out with friends later." So whatever it is, his behavior is not normal.
Yeah.
I would think, unless perhaps this is normal for the parents and they are just not being forthcoming.
Well, and it's not like they're on the other side of the country of like, oh man, we're still in Illinois and he's in California. It's really hard for us to get out there.
No, there's no excuses.
Yeah.
Hours went by and Bryce had still not arrived at his parents' house. Karen and Mike were frantic and called the only nearby person they could think of, Christian from Castro Tire and Truck.
You know what? Mechanic of the Year.
Graciously, he agreed to check on Bryce at his last known location. Much to everyone's surprise, Bryce was still there.
Come on.
At this point, he had been in Buttonwillow for 13 hours. And his parents still had not got in their car and fucking driven to him.
It's so strange.
We called the only person we could think of that was in the area. Either one of you could have been both of you could have been in the area several times by now. They're like 2 hours from him.
It would be if somebody was sitting in Austin. I'm having to put it
not even
Waco, a little bit past Waco.
Yeah.
You're in Frisco and they're in Waco.
Yeah.
Wow. That doesn't mean anything to anybody that doesn't live in Dallas, but it helps my brain.
Well, it's 2 hours away, and if I got a call that...
Picture in your mind someone that you love is only 2 hours from you.
You would move mountains, which isn't even necessary. All you gotta do is get in your car and drive. And for some reason...
I'm missing something.
They weren't. And in all of the things I saw... They never explain why.
They didn't say, "Oh man, we just, we run our own business and we had to work," or our mother was.
No, they're sitting at home
on the deathbed and we had to be at the hospital in case she died.
I'm legitimately mad now.
Yeah, I can't get past confusion to get to mad.
Well,
I'm just
there.
like, how?
I don't think the how matters. It's the fact that they
just straight up
didn't.
Yeah.
They claim they're so worried and they're frantic and they're calling people. If you're that worried, do everything you can.
Like you said, one can go and the other one
The police have been there. Yeah. The police have been there at this point.
Sure.
Like, who do you call when something's wrong?
You call Christian from Castro Tire and
apparently
Truck.
You do. You call Christian from Castro Tire and Truck. Anything you need done, call this man.
If there's something strange in the neighborhood, who are you going to call? Christian from Castro Tire and Truck.
Well, he went the extra step of letting Bryce follow him onto the highway so Bryce would not become lost.
He's an angel.
When they made it to the highway about a half hour later, Bryce was seemingly on his way home to his parents' house in Laguna Niguel. His GPS stated that he should arrive home at 3:25 a.m. So, the last time Karen spoke to her son was 11 p.m. the night before.
Yes.
It is now a couple hours before 3:30 in the morning. And she's just sitting at home.
It's so strange.
I know I keep harping on this, but so does the internet.
Yeah.
Google anything about this. And everyone's
like, what's wrong with you?
Everyone's up in arms. They're like, that's one thing I can't explain.
Yeah.
Is why they wouldn't have gotten their car and
Nobody
done
just
something.
Went there. Yeah.
Bryce had talked to his parents and reassured them he was on his way home. His parents called him frequently and prompted him for his location by asking for any recognizable landmarks nearby. But Bryce was vague and evasive, saying he was unable to see any signs. At 2:09 a.m., Bryce called his mom to tell her he was too sleepy to continue driving and would be pulling over to sleep for the night. At this point, he had been awake for between 30 to 36 hours.
Yes, I've been awake for 46 hours, 2 times in a row.
So dumb. I'm sorry.
All right, rude. Dallas Comedy House has a thing called Sleep Deprived where 7 strangers just who know each other from comedy.
7 non-strangers.
7 friends to 10, depends on how many people get chosen. But we stay up from 8 a.m. Friday morning, and then we do a show at 10 p.m. Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
So you stay up between... it's almost 48 hours, right? No, it's almost 38 hours or something. 42 hours, something like that.
You just threw out a lot of numbers. I don't know.
Well, we're banned from driving while we do it because it's not safe. Because I think it's something like after being awake for 24 hours, it's the equivalent of having like 3 beers.
It's more dangerous to drive sleep deprived than drunk.
And he's up for 30 hours, so well beyond.
In a car.
In the mountains where you don't know where he's at and it's dark out. So as a sleep deprived person, I can attest. You just get disoriented and you start just being like, I don't know, man, whatever.
Well, when Bryce called his mom to tell her he was pulling over, Karen in a later interview told Bryce that this was
a good idea.
This would be the last time Karen would ever speak to her son. Okay, again, she's going to tell her kid,
sleep in your car?
It's a good idea to pull over. You would go get him. If he's pulling over to sleep in his car and all of this is going on, you don't just let him sleep in his car in a strange area. You go get him. It's so stupid. God, these fucking idiots.
God, Jesus.
As a parent, I just can't wrap my head around this.
I think I can only think of it from the perspective of a kid. Not that I'm still a kid, but if my mom would come get me. Or she would send my brother-in-law to come get me or my sister, you know?
Right.
It wouldn't just be like, oh, just take your time and sleep on the side of the road. You'll be fine.
I think the fact that they didn't go get him is very telling.
Interesting.
The next morning around 8 a.m., Karen and Mike's worst fears came true. They answered a knock at their door and found themselves face to face with a California Highway Patrol officer. He asked the pair if they were the owners of a tan 2003 Toyota Highlander. They confirmed that they were and had given it to their son to drive. The officer told the Laspisas that earlier that morning, around 5:30 a.m., just 3 hours after talking with their son, Bryce's car was found near Castaic Lake, seemingly abandoned, just off an access road that led to the state recreation area. Off that road was a 25-foot embankment, where Bryce's car had been found at the bottom, crashed and on its side. So now you are completely beside yourself.
Well, I'm sure you're like, oh, God, this is what
I would imagine there's a lot of guilt that you're feeling.
Yes. That's exactly what you worried would happen has now happened.
Although Bryce's belongings, including his laptop, phone, and wallet, were located in or near the car, Bryce was nowhere to be found. His unzipped duffel bag was found just outside the car, leading police to believe he had taken something with him. His blood was inside the car, but not enough to indicate any serious or life-threatening injury. Even more bizarre, the back window of the SUV had been shattered, and evidence indicated it was broken from the inside out.
This is interesting to me, that he not only survived, but was obviously physically able enough to kick out or punch out a back window.
That cannot be easy.
Of an SUV.
I've never done it, but I imagine it's very difficult.
Yeah. I mean, you see on internet videos.
Unless it was already maybe shattered a bit from the impact.
It cracked or something.
Yes,
that's true. That may make it easier.
But still, that is after... I saw on the show I watched, it shows where this happened. And there's a big cell tower, a dirt service road that leads up to it. And then looking out over that is this gorgeous lake. But because of the way it looks like it's just a drop straight into the lake. But really, it's a 25-foot drop down a grassy hill straight down to another dirt road below it.
And then another...
That's where he fell down. About 1,200 yards or so to the lake from there.
Okay, so it's pretty far from the lake.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, evidence also showed that Bryce had accelerated as he drove off the service road, down the embankment, and toward the lake. A nearby cell tower and foliage create a sort of optical illusion, causing the lake to appear to be much closer than it actually is. Based on the location of the vehicle, investigators concluded that Bryce's actions were deliberate, and that he had most likely been trying to kill himself.
Because I would think if you start to drive off an embankment, even if you're sleep deprived and sleepy, you would, natural.
Yeah,
you'd brake.
You'd brake.
Naturally.
He did not. He accelerated. Immediately, the police launched a massive search for the missing college student. Not only did law enforcement personnel come out in huge numbers, but volunteers, divers, cadaver dogs, and rescue crews took to searching by car, on foot, using ATVs, and even helicopters, for any sign of Bryce in the surrounding area. Coffee shops and local stores also helped, allowing volunteers to set up base camps inside. Police utilized bloodhounds to track Bryce's path once he broke out of the car and made his way away from the wreckage. The trail took the dogs across a dam on Castaic Lake, then south toward a nearby truck stop. The scent went cold at the truck stop, causing speculations that Bryce took off walking from the crash, hitched a ride with a trucker, and disappeared.
Now, we saw this, I'm telling you, in our unexplained disappearance episodes. Where,
with the skier?
Yes, multiple people would have head injuries and just wander off and get into a car with somebody.
You suffer amnesia or concussion, you're confused, disoriented, maybe you don't know who you are.
And if he just took off walking and saw light in the distance and just walked to the light, you know.
Right. After 48 hours of searching, there was still no sign of Bryce. Officers also searched for any witnesses who may have seen someone matching his description, but came up empty-handed. However, investigators did make a possibly telling discovery. At 2:15 a.m., just 6 minutes after Bryce last spoke with his mother, a camera on Lake Hughes Road, a long and winding road near Castaic Lake, captured Bryce's car going up the road. The same camera then captured Bryce up the road again at 4:29 a.m. Because Lake Hughes Road is so long, it takes a while to make it back to the main road, making it very odd for Bryce to be going back up a second time.
I can't explain this.
I think he was circling looking for
a dive-off point.
Yeah, or getting the courage to do it.
Wow.
On the investigation Discovery series, Disappeared, Road to Nowhere, Karen Laspisa said of her son driving on Lake Hughes Road.
That's not normal behavior.
None of this is normal behavior.
I think so.
This isn't normal behavior? Now you're going to say this is not normal behavior? All that stuff from before
with the girlfriend, with the roommate, with the... This kid was, I think, crying for help.
I would say so, yes. And unfortunately, his calls were not being answered. Over the next few weeks, law enforcement and Karen and Mike received numerous tips of the whereabouts of Bryce, but nothing led them to finding their son. Mike and Karen contacted the media and spread awareness with missing persons flyers, hoping Bryce was still in the area where he was last seen or that someone had witnessed something that could help bring him home. They got a billboard near the lake asking for any information. They tried anything they could do to help find their missing son.
Well, the billboard might be helpful because that's kind of the last place he would seen. And if there was a trucker that maybe picked him up, then hopefully they would see that.
Those missing person billboards always really affect me when I'm driving on the highway.
Same. Or the ones where it's a mugshot and it says murder.
Yeah.
Wanted for murder.
Or this person has been murdered.
That's, yeah.
The one where those 4 girls were murdered on the highway and they didn't have any clues and they erected one. In interviews, they maintained Bryce sounded normal and talkative on their last call with him. They also suspected foul play or some other issue, as Bryce had been in an unfamiliar area near Castaic Lake and was not one to hitchhike or even enjoy outdoor activities.
I mean, same. If I go missing in the forest, it's because someone forced me there. I'm not out for a fun hike.
Well, yeah. I think anyone, if you're in the forest under these conditions, was not there because they wanted to be.
Yeah.
A few weeks later, on September 4th, 2013, his parents feared the worst when a jogger reported a brush fire near where the car had crashed. 3 miles from the location of Bryce's accident, a body was found burning in the woods. DNA tests were conducted, and much to their relief, it was not their son, but a victim of a Los Angeles area homicide.
You know that your stomach just sinks. You're like, this is it.
Police searched for Bryce for 3 weeks, at which point search efforts were called off. Although the investigation was ongoing, officers had no new leads. Eventually, after months of no updates, the Laspisas got tired of waiting and decided to take matters into their own hands. With no new information from the police, Mike and Karen hired private investigator Denise Savastano, who offered to take the case for free. She found that Bryce had actually plugged his parents' address into the GPS in his car. Savastano theorized that much like other cases of reported missing persons, Bryce had unintentionally crashed, suffered a head injury, then wandered, confused, to the truck stop. She also suggested Bryce may have suffered a psychotic break from his misuse of ADHD medication.
I would think that one private detective, maybe I'm wrong, may not be able to find as much as an entire police force at the initial time of the search. I get it, though, that that's somebody that you want to call when the search gets called off.
Yeah, I would agree, but I think if you're not getting any answers, I would also want to take matters into my own hands to feel like I was doing something.
The next natural step.
Right. Wanting to be sure that Bryce had not died by suicide in the lake, the Laspisas and Savastano hired a sonar specialist to search a part of the lake police did not cover, called Government Cove, that has parts as deep as 300 feet. Using sound waves on the lake bottom to detect any human remains, the search spanned 2 days, 12 hours each day, but nothing of consequence was found.
They're Nessieing it up, hitting it with the sonar.
Didn't find Nessie, didn't find him either. This is a big lake, too, with a lot of, feeder lakes around it as well.
And Government Cove.
Well, you know you're not going to find anything there.
You know what? Covered up.
It's all covered up. So why would a seemingly happy young man's personality and mental state suddenly change so drastically? When investigators interviewed Bryce's friends and classmates, a disturbing picture began to emerge. The once driven student had begun behaving strangely at the start of his sophomore year a few weeks earlier. He was mixing the ADHD medicines he was taking with hard liquor, and lots of it. They said he was drinking 2 bottles of Jack Daniels a weekend. That's a lot.
That makes me sick to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Your stomach's just going to be sloshing and full.
ADHD medications are strong and can be addictive, especially when taken by someone who does not suffer from ADHD. According to some studies, the powerful ADHD drug Adderall can induce psychosis, and there is even one report of a college student at Vanderbilt in Nashville dying after misusing the drug. However, Mike and Kieran continued to insist that Bryce had been fine and showed no signs of an addiction.
The problem when your student or your child is off at college is you can't see him every day. So if he comes home for 3 days here and there or a weekend and is behaving normally.
Right. Or even lives an entire summer with you, you hide it.
Yeah, you can just hide it.
Yeah.
Go stay with a friend.
Teenagers are real good at hiding stuff.
Yes.
Addicts are even better at hiding stuff.
Yes. Especially if it's you desperately want to do it and you know the price for being caught will mean that you don't get to do it anymore.
Sure.
Easily they're going to hide it.
Even more disturbing, Bryce had begun giving away his valuable possessions to friends, including his Xbox and a pair of diamond stud earrings given to him by his mother. This is often a common warning sign that a person is considering taking their own life.
That's true. If he starts to give away things like, well, I won't need this anymore.
Could mean he was considering taking his own life or just leaving his life.
Leaving it all behind.
So what are the theories behind what may have happened? Did Bryce take his own life that night? Some believe this is the case, as evidenced by his behavior in the preceding weeks. Additionally, investigators point to tire tracks in the car's position that showed Bryce accelerated toward the lake volitionally. However, this theory falls apart when one considers that Bryce's body was never found, and he clearly walked away from the accident. Is it possible that he walked into the nearby lake and succeeded in taking his own life? His parents don't think so, as they refuse to accept that Bryce was suicidal, and searches of the lake produced no signs of a body.
What do you think? Do you think it was suicide, or do you want to wait till the end?
I'm going to wait to the end.
Okay, we'll wait.
But I also think this isn't a good theory because the dogs tracked him to the truck stop.
So they know he didn't jump in the lake.
Yeah, at the very least, he made it to the truck stop. Bryce's family, as well as private investigator Denise Savastano, believe, like some of the cases we covered in our Unexplained Disappearances episode, that Bryce suffered a head injury in the crash, which led to amnesia. Several cases have been reported where someone suffers a head injury, for instance while skiing, then simply walks away, leaving behind their valuables with no memory of who they are or where they are from.
That is a thing that happens.
It's very much a thing that happens. So that is a possibility.
And it's not full, it's not totally understood, but it's not just a thing in soap operas. I think it's more prevalent than one would think, but not as prevalent as that girl in my high school. Did I tell you about that girl that faked amnesia in my high school?
Oh, no.
Oh, my gosh. She was dating this guy. He broke up with her on a Friday.
And she just pretended to not remember she George Costanza's.
Yes. Well, she came in on Monday and she kissed him and he's like, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I was in a car accident over the weekend and I hit my head and I don't remember anything that happened before Friday." He's like, and she's like, "Anyway, babe, are we going to the dance?" Much like a teenage boy just went, "Oh, okay."
He didn't stick to his guns?
No. And it would be like, bullshit, you didn't get into a crash. But he just went, well, what am I going to do? Dump her again? She got in a car accident. She has amnesia. Everyone's like, dude, she doesn't have amnesia. She's making it up.
She is completely manipulating you.
She fully...
But also... Good for her. That's kind of a badass baller move.
She fully dug in to the amnesia story and stuck to it.
Now they're happily married with 3 kids.
I don't think they're married. If you went to high school with me, DM me. See if DM me only. Don't ask me who it was because I can't remember her name. I could go get my yearbook, but DM me if you remember the girl that faked amnesia, and we'll brainstorm together.
Oh man, I hope she's listening. Or even better, I hope this dude is listening.
Then, in that case, definitely DM me. I want to talk to you about that weird incident.
Also, DM me, because I have some things I'd like to talk to you about.
We have some questions.
I know I don't know you, but
the girl that faked amnesia. That's like you said, it's a baller move, though.
It kind of is. Well, Savastano also believes another possibility is that Bryce suffered a psychotic break from the drugs he had been taking, or was suffering from a mental illness. Late teens and early 20s are a prime time for certain mental illnesses to appear in males. Could the combination of ADHD medicines and alcohol have exacerbated the onset symptoms of something like schizophrenia and sent Bryce into a psychotic episode? Perhaps Bryce was beginning to suffer symptoms, and that was the something he told his mom he wanted to discuss with her once he got home. Is Bryce living on the street somewhere, self-medicating his issues like so many other homeless Americans?
That could be one of the scenarios where how many homeless people do you pass on the street? Daily, weekly, monthly.
Too many, not because I'm saying that they're bothering me. Too many that we don't have a solution to this problem.
Yeah, some sort of a program or something we can help with. But if he had changed his appearance, if his hair was longer, if he had a beard, you may not recognize him as the kid from the poster.
Millions of homeless people in LA,
and that's kind of this area.
He might be. Yeah.
So, and if he had some sort of a psychotic break and doesn't have access to medicine, maybe he's taken something from the street.
Mm-hmm. A large number of investigators, including Detective Sergeant Robert Martindale, who worked the case, believe Bryce voluntarily walked away from his life. Considering there was no body and the car was driven purposely to crash as it did, Bryce may have staged a suicide. He could have intentionally left behind his wallet, phone, and other belongings in order to stay off the grid. Robert Martindale looks like our friend Todd Anderton, by the way.
I love Todd Anderton with my whole heart.
Well, look up Sergeant Robert Martindale, because the whole time I was like, who does he remind me of? And then it finally clicked, and I was like, he looks like Todd.
Well, so you're saying that in the inevitable movie that we have someone to be cast already?
The movie we make about this story?
He does look like Todd.
We'll post a picture of our friend Todd and then
side by side
Robert Martindale.
Side by side. I'm just saying, in the eventual Bryce Laspisa movie dramatization,
yes.
Todd
should play Detective Robert Martindale. Absolutely. Bryce also chose the perfect location to get away, as a nearby truck stop offered easy access to the highway and out of the state. Again, Bryce's parents refused to believe this theory, as they say their son was happy and would never run away. But was he happy? Several users on our Unresolved Mysteries claim to know Bryce and the Laspisas and paint a much different picture than the one Karen has to the media.
This is the juicy Reddit intel.
Dude, I
went on Reddit.
Down such a rabbit hole.
Same. I spent so many hours on Reddit.
Also, my new favorite thing is the Am I the Asshole?
I love that page.
Last night, Tommy was trying to sleep, and I just kept laughing out loud reading that.
That was one day Paris was sitting next to me on the couch, and I was reading our relationship advice, and he was working on something, and just every few minutes I would go, girl, you need to leave him. Or be like, boy, dump him. Y'all need to be together. And Paris was like, why are you yelling at your phone? It's just like, all these people need to break up. I felt like Liz Lemon. That's a deal breaker.
Yeah.
That, and also on Am I an Asshole? 98% of the time. Yes, you are. Sometimes they're
Most of the ones I was reading,
they were not.
I personally did not feel like they
were mistook for an asshole.
Some of them, but maybe I'm an asshole.
What made you laugh out loud?
It was, am I the asshole because I don't want to pick my wife up from the airport at 12:30 a.m.? And that just made me laugh that somebody took the time to post this on Reddit. He was, because, they rate him at the top.
That's true.
What the majority of the votes were. He was. But when he explained why.
Does he have to wake up early for work?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Very. And commute. And she was flying into O'Hare. Girl, just get a fucking Uber.
No, take the blue line. It runs all the time. It runs straight to the city.
I think they lived in the suburbs.
Ooh, gross. That sucks. That's your own fault.
I don't know. But my thing was everyone sucks here, which was another way you can vote. Because he didn't want to go get his wife.
She should have picked a better flight.
She could have just taken an Uber. He ended up going to get her, and then he updated it saying she'd had a really terrible flight and didn't expect him to be there. And then when she saw him, she burst into tears. So it was worth it in the end. Sometimes
you're not being an asshole, but sometimes when you do the opposite of your natural instinct, you're going above and beyond. And that's when like in this case,
people don't expect it.
It's an unexpected pleasantry. And maybe the world needs a couple more of those.
Yeah. My favorite was, this guy had been out of town for several weeks, and when he came back, his neighbor had thrown all of his cigarette butts in his garden, and he knew it was his neighbor because he's the only one that smokes.
So the neighbor was flicking butts into this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he said, am I the asshole so he went to his neighbor's house with, I think he said it was 52 cigarette butts. He had to dig out by hand because they were all mixed in with the mulch. Went to his neighbor's house with them all. Said, I believe these are yours. The neighbor was like, fuck you, slammed the door in his face, wouldn't apologize or anything. So then the guy, one by one, kept mailing them back to him. I was like, that's badass.
That's really good.
He was up to 27 when finally the neighbor's wife, not even the neighbor, the wife, came over to apologize to this guy's wife.
Not to the guy?
No, and it wasn't man to man, it was wife to wife.
Well, they're reasonable, rational people.
The wife, exactly. But the wife didn't know her husband had been doing that, and she was pissed off that he had been so petty to mail these cigarettes back. No,
that's awesome.
I would have given Tommy a standing ovation.
Yeah, that's such a good...
Most people were like, no, you're not the asshole. That dude's the asshole for sure.
No, I thought you were saying like dumped him in the mailbox, but mailing them is
One person was like, put him in a balloon, blow up the balloon, let it fly over his backyard, and then pop it. It's like, that's also
shoot it with a BB
good.
gun and let it rain down.
Sometimes Reddit can be great.
Yeah, sometimes.
Well, according to the people on this thread that knew Bryce in high school, he was known to be a, quote, druggie. It would frequently take booze to school, where he would proceed to get drunk for days at a time. There are even rumors that he had been on probation for drug use the summer before leaving for college. Some even speculate that he had been in Buttonwillow that day waiting on his dealer that never showed. So this was a very interesting theory because I am not an addict, nor have I ever been one. It did not occur to me, but so many people on this thread that are former addicts were like, that is the very first thing I thought of, why he was waiting in this town just on the side of the road.
Oh, because I would never thought that. I thought he was kind of going through something or staring off into the distance.
They said, they're like, I've waited in parking lots for my dealer for hours.
Wow.
Because, and they're like, just, you don't even want to blink because if you miss them, you know your chance is gone.
Well, then wouldn't there be phone records?
That was the argument.
Texts, phone calls?
Well, some said, why weren't there texts? Some said maybe he had a burner phone.
And that's what he took out of the unzipped duffel bag.
Could have been.
Problem solved.
Could have been. I don't know. I think he would have had the burner phone up with him, though, not in the duffel bag.
That's true. I've never met a drug dealer, so I don't know if they're punctual.
I'm revealing a lot about myself in this episode.
They're like, fuck it.
I mean, I think they're like anybody. Some are, some aren't.
It's true. Some people are punctual.
But, you know,
Mike Birbiglia, some are on-time people and some are late people. And it applies to drug dealers.
But a lot of drug dealers, I would say most, are also drug users.
True.
So a lot of drug users are not reliable, and you know you can't count them a lot of the time. So if somebody you're relying to bring you drugs is also on drugs, you might see where this is going.
Can't get good help these days.
So I don't know. I don't. And people were like, the dealer may have even shown up and got spooked because the tire guy was involved.
Yeah.
The police were involved.
Well, and one of the times that the police are talking to him, if the dealer drives by, he's gonna keep driving.
Yeah. So,
excuse me,
that's one
officers,
theory.
pardon me, I'm trying to make a sale.
I hadn't really thought of that, but multiple people were like, first thing I thought of as a former user.
Oh, he's probably just waiting for a drug dealer. Interesting.
But also, people were like, why would it be in this small town of 1,200? I don't know. Unless maybe his dealer was someone from back home and he was meeting them halfway.
That makes more sense.
While Karen has always maintained she and her husband had a wonderful and open relationship with their son, some that know them say it was quite the opposite. Reddit user, the Anonymous Hooligan, claims to know Karen and calls her, quote,
an unrepentant psycho.
And that she would say or do anything to avoid causing embarrassment to herself. She goes on to say that the Laspisa house was not a happy home, but one filled with emotional and verbal abuse.
So that may be a reason why he wouldn't want to come back.
And again, this is all Reddit stuff. Sometimes it's a credible source, but we're not going on record saying this is fact. No. But it is speculation and could very well be true and answer some questions why his parents weren't getting in the car and going to find him. Because if he was a drug addict and they were maybe used to this type of behavior.
It's embarrassing
they don't want to cause attention to it, but also they're kind of like, well, he's done this before.
Yeah.
Maybe it wasn't the first time type of thing.
But yeah, on Reddit, it could be a first-hand source and it could be just people making stuff up.
Sure. Absolutely. Did someone possibly run Bryce off the road? Was he picked up by a devious trucker? Investigators found no nearby tracks that would indicate another vehicle had been nearby. As for who picked Bryce up at the truck stop, it could be anybody's guess. No one can say what happened to Bryce after he walked away from the accident and to that truck stop on the other side of the dam. Some believe Bryce died at the scene or shortly thereafter. As there are no signs that Bryce was killed in the accident and a search of the lake and surrounding area turned up no sign of a body, this theory may be the weakest. Bryce could have left town with a trucker and met an unfortunate fate somewhere else, but police simply do not have any evidence to support this.
You think about where Ted Bundy, he would be off driving and it didn't have to be a trucker that stopped at the truck stop. It could have been anyone that he wandered in the car with, and something unfortunate happened, and he's off, unfortunately his remains may be out off of a highway somewhere. Yeah. And you just would never find it.
Different state where you wouldn't even make that connection. Yeah. Well, Karen and Mike Laspisa continue to search for their son and follow up on leads. The Find Bryce Laspisa Facebook page has nearly 30,000 members, many of whom provide possible sightings, tips on his potential whereabouts, and pictures of homeless men they think may be Bryce. A psychic even left a comment with directions for where she believed he could be found. Bryce's fingerprints, social security number, passport, and driver's license information are all in the nationwide missing persons systems. It's been nearly 6 years since Bryce went missing, and there has never been a hit. In addition, he has never made an attempt to sign into any type of account, and as far as detectives know, the passwords have never changed. If Bryce is still alive, he has managed to stay completely off the grid.
Man, you imagine that, get rid of Facebook?
I would love it. I would love if social media, I talk about this all the time.
If it just poofed?
If it would be, I think, the best thing that could happen.
Wow.
Maybe not the best thing, but it would be like kids that are growing up now don't remember life without it. We didn't have all that when I was in high school.
The other day,
it was a happier time.
I was going to say, I had a day without an iPhone the other day. My phone just, for no reason, just broke. It just didn't work anymore. And I had to take it to the Apple store on a fucking Saturday. I had to go to the mall. And it was the worst. Parking was awful. People just rub up against you.
I don't understand why the Apple store is constantly crowded.
It is.
What are you looking at in there?
It looks like a bazaar in.
It's ridiculous.
An open market.
No phone is that exciting.
Just buy it on the internet.
It doesn't make any sense.
And I tried to do online tech support, and they said, "We're so sorry. We have to send you to the stores or anything we could do." I said, "Come to my home. Please don't make me go there." So I went there, and they ended up fixing it. They just erased it and just started it back up. But in the interim time, as I left my house, normally I have my GPS on my phone. Mm-hmm. I usually have messages will be popping in as I'm trying to drive. I'll have Spotify going. I listen to terrestrial radio, listen to some cool oldies, like old kind of rock from the 70s, just jamming while I was driving.
98.7?
I was listening to 92.5 KZPS,
oh, nice, yeah.
Listen to a little bit of Doors, some Pink Floyd. I was listening to some Fleetwood Mac and the Eagle. It was nice. Just driving, I had to just remember.
That's what I listened to on my Spotify.
I had to remind myself how to get to the mall. It was just that
would have been challenging for me.
It was. It took me a really long time, and I couldn't pay with my app at Starbucks, so I didn't get my points. But then at the mall, I didn't know which side of the mall the Apple store was on, and I thought, I should have looked before I left, but now that you have a phone, you really get spoiled that you can just do it in the parking lot or whatever. Man, it was odd a day and eventually I got it turned back on, but you just forget I forget how stupid I've made myself with this device.
Yeah.
That I just have notes in there. I rely on a lot of passwords or, pre-saved. You can do it with your passcode or whatever, your Face ID. But I've really made myself quite stupid.
The other day, my friend Ray said, I know this is going to be a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. But what did people do before GPS and smartphones?
MapQuest. And then before that, Maps Go.
You would print out directions at home off MapQuest and then take the directions with you. Mm-hmm. And he said, even before cell phones and stuff. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, what did you do if you got lost? I was like, you pulled over. Or you just kept driving around
You just had to literally just turn back around and try to find that turn.
Because in high school, I didn't have a cell phone. I obviously didn't have GPS.
I had a Nokia, where you to text, you had to go A, B, C.
Yeah.
And there was no GPS.
Right.
You could call and stuff, but.
Well, I had a beeper in high school.
My sister had a beeper.
Yeah. It was.
It got stolen out in front of the Foley's.
Oh.
She had a gold chain and everything. She let her friend Laura wear it. Don't lend your beeper out is a lesson I learned.
No, even with a gold chain and then somebody yanked it off her.
Yes, your chain clip. She bought it at the very mall from which it was stolen.
Oh gosh. I would drive around crying a lot because
I lost.
Yeah, and it scares me when I get lost and I don't have a good sense of direction. So I was like, the best thing that's happened to me with phones is GPS.
I do love rerouting. Where it's
the worst thing is social media. And I feel that way about a lot of people. High school was so difficult. I cannot imagine having the added layer of Instagram and Facebook and all the other things that I don't even TikTok. Kill me. Like all of these things. Like I hate that Ella's going to have to deal with it.
Yes, we had to deal with. So I had Zanga and LiveJournal in high school, which people would bully, bully people on there. And that was only and AOL Instant Messenger. And also that's where the kid told me, I said, will you be my boyfriend? He said, yes. And I said, really? And he said, when you lose 100 pounds and get cool.
Oh,
I haven't told that story on here.
I don't think so.
He did the old bait and switch because I said, will you be my boyfriend? And he said yes, which is so great.
Was this somebody you knew?
Yeah. Yeah. He was,
this is why social media is the devil.
Yeah. So I was 15. I was 16 when that happened, but that was all computer based. So I could get up and walk away.
I had Instant Messenger.
But it's like you now, as a kid, you have this phone, and if someone's cyberbullying you or whatever, you just get a constant barrage, and there's like 18 different apps on which they may torment you.
And then you get to see all your friends leaving you out of stuff and trashing you on social media.
And me, but don't tag so-and-so.
There's so many horrible ways kids get bullied on
Kids use notebook paper and pencil to bully me, and I can't, and that was just, you tear up the paper or whatever, but I can't imagine now, man, the internet and
then
phones.
Kids send pictures they should not be sending.
PSA, that is trafficking in child pornography, even if the recipient's also a child. Don't do that. You will be a sex offender.
And it's out there forever, and they show it to all their friends.
Yes. Forward it around.
Well, that being said, you said, what if Facebook just disappeared and went poof? Greatest thing that could happen to
you wouldn't be bad.
To society. Well, Detective Martindale is convinced Bryce is alive, but doesn't want to be found.
I know in my heart he's out there somewhere. I just don't know where.
Martindale also believes that answering one question would be the key to finding Bryce. What did he want to talk to his mother about? There has been so much speculation about this. Was he suffering from mental health problems and wanted to seek help from his family? Had he relapsed into drug use, as some say he was prone to do? Was he planning on coming out to his parents, which may also explain his sudden breakup with Kim? Did he plan on dropping out of school and moving away? Whatever the subject matter, Martindale believes this is what caused him to walk away from his life.
Okay, I want to hear your theory.
So what do we think? Okay. I believe... At first, I believe that he was planning on killing himself, and he was circling the lake probably to gain courage. I think he had driven. I think this could have been caused by the medication that he was unnecessarily taken with the alcohol. I think it caused, another girl on Reddit was saying she is prescribed Vyvanse and is supposed to take it, so it regulates her. But she admitted she shouldn't be doing this. Occasionally, when needing to study for finals, she would take an extra one. And she said she would have occasionally what she would call episodes where she would go blind and hallucinate and kind of be aware of what she was doing, but couldn't really stop it. And then later, she would just be traumatized at the type of behavior that she had because she could remember what had happened. So, and she's gone to doctors about it. They can't really explain what's going on, but it's alarming and stuff. And, another reason to follow all the medication the way you're supposed to be taking it. So this drug, when taken incorrectly, can have really bad side effects. If he's drinking a lot and taking this, and then we see this erratic behavior start with the roommate and then the girlfriend. I think he starts driving home. Maybe he doesn't even know what he's doing. Or maybe he wants to just get away and get home. Then he runs out of gas. Mm-hmm. And I think he also was planning to maybe kill himself. And he's just sitting there kind of contemplating that.
Trying to get,
for hours.
Like you said, get the courage or think about it.
Or just thinking it all through. He's also, I think he's fucked up. Mm-hmm. He's on drugs. He's sleep deprived. I don't think he's thinking straight. What's interesting is he seems lucid when everybody talks to him. But that could be, he was just suicidal and
he wasn't trying to drugs.
Yeah. I think he was on drugs, but maybe they had worn off enough. I think he was driving around the lake to get the courage up to do it. He did it. It didn't go the way he planned. So then he walked to the truck stop and hitched a ride out of there.
And now he's alive somewhere?
That's what I'm not sure of.
Do you think that he like got out of the car thinking, oh man, I tried to kill myself. My name's Bryce and I'm a college student and I'm going to walk to a truck stop? Or he got out of the car like, well, I'm going to take off walking in that direction. I don't know who I am or where I'm going.
You mean, do I think he suffered a head injury that led to amnesia?
Or do you think he consciously decided to walk to the truck
stop? I think he consciously decided. But part of me wonders, well, no, because the dogs tracked him to the truck stop.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, part of me wonders if maybe he had tried to like go to the lake to finish the deed. Because it's interesting, if he was trying to kill himself, why he wouldn't have just gone and done it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he had some sort of clarity. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't know is if he's still alive today.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I thought he was. But the more I think about it, 9 years of nothing popping up in his system, you got to be real off the grid. And if he is living among the homeless population or something, I guess that's possible.
Yeah, that's true. Or he's living off like on some commune somewhere.
A lot of people claim to have had sightings in the Oregon area.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of people claim to have sightings in the LA area, but none of them have panned out to be him. He has a huge tattoo on one of his arms that's,
pretty
obvious. So there's, even in that Facebook group, people have posted pictures and like asked the homeless man, can you lift up your sleeve so I can see if you have this tattoo? And they oblige.
Yeah.
So his parents are always like, no, that's not him.
Wow.
So yeah, but I do think if he is alive, I think police have found him
mm-hmm.
and are voluntarily respecting his wishes of not revealing his location.
Well, okay.
Which is why they say, I believe the case is closed and it's voluntarily missing is how it's listed.
Wow.
So I think he could be alive and they have found him and they are he's an adult. He doesn't have to go back home.
True.
What do you think?
Well, until I was slightly disagreeing with you until that very last bit, because I completely agree. I think he did try to drive off the embankment purposefully. Like he did do it purposely. I think when he landed, that at first I thought he landed and probably had a head injury and just wandered to the truck stop.
Mm.
But the last bit that you just said about the voluntarily missing, if those things were true, that he did not have the best relationship with his parents.
Mm-hmm.
He felt pressured to be in college, so he was trying to take these medicines to do better in school. Then he's thinking, there's no way out. I have no way out. Oh my God, like I have to kill myself because there's no way out of this situation. Drives off the embankment, crashes, and has the realization like, oh shit, I didn't want to die. I just don't want to go back to college or home. Goes and tries to find a place to hitch. And then, like you said, some police in Oregon or somebody found him and he said, just don't want to go home.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not missing. And please don't expend any more resources on me. So until you said that last part, I was thinking he maybe had some sort of like amnesia and then was in the homeless population.
Mm-hmm.
But seeing as how that's an option, that you could just say, yeah, don't tell my family where I'm at.
And and I could be wrong, but from the research I did, they're not required by law to tell the family.
No.
If he was a minor, then yes.
Correct.
So, I don't know. I mean, I feel like the parents know more than they're letting on. In
the embarrassment factor.
In all the interviews I've seen, clearly they're upset and remorseful. The behavior is odd, though, especially the mother, just the way she talks about him, her mannerisms and everything. It seems a bit fake. I think that they knew he had a drug problem.
Mm-hmm.
They tried to keep it under wraps. They didn't want to tell the cops because they didn't want him just being treated as a druggie or getting out in the media and everything. So I think that perhaps this wasn't that uncommon, or they were just trying to like brush it under the rug. I still, regardless of what was going on, I think if they thought he was on drugs, that's even more of a reason to get in your car and go get him. I will never understand why somebody did not get in their car and go get him.
And I bet they still regret it.
Oh, I'm sure that they do. I wonder if they know he is alive and they just...
It's embarrassing.
...are keeping up the facade. I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Well, let us know what you think.
Yeah, it's a crazy case that has a lot of different theories and opinions on the internet. So
it's a big rabbit hole if you want to go down it.
Yeah,
check out the Reddit threads.
Is, yes.
We are thrilled to announce that on August 22nd at Terra Bang Books in Dallas, Texas, we have the honor of interviewing acclaimed true crime writer and co-host of the podcast Murder Squad, Billy Jensen, about his new book, Chase Darkness with Me. We would love to see you there. Information can be found at sinisterhood.com/links. We also have an upcoming improv comedy show with our troupe, The Cult. It's going to be on August 17th at 10 p.m., the grand opening weekend of the new location of Dallas Comedy House. Information on that can also be found at sinisterhood.com/links.
Sinisterhood will always remain free, but if you wish to donate to our Patreon to help offset the cost of making and hosting the show, you can visit sinisterhood.com and click on Patreon in the top right corner. You'll get some sweet perks like Patreon-exclusive content, a Sinisterhood sticker, membership to our exclusive Patreon Facebook group, a special shout-out on the show, and a monthly bonus minisode. And make sure you stick around after our sign-offs to hear your shout-out.
So many of you have been tagging us in pictures of you sporting your sweet Sinisterhood merch. Keep those pictures coming. If you want to get some cool Sinisterhood swag for yourself, like t-shirts, mugs, totes, and even clothes for your kiddos, visit sinisterhood.com and click shop in the top right corner.
The best thing you can do to help us grow is like, review, and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcast, and tell a friend who you think would like us to check us out. It means so much to us and really helps small podcasts like us get more exposure.
You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at SinisterhoodPod and like us on Facebook at Sinisterhood. Christy, where are you at?
I am on Twitter at Christy or GTFO and on Instagram at Christy M. Wallace. Heather?
I'm on Instagram at Heather vs. the World and on Twitter at MCK vs. the World.
As always, the devil rules the airwaves.
Keep it creepy. Hey everybody, thank you so much for supporting the show on Patreon. Here are your Patreon shoutouts.
Jenny A.
Heather Judd, what's up Heather?
Ashley Eubanks.
Emily LaCure.
Megan Anson.
Lindsay Wilson.
Mackenzie.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the support. We could not do this without you.
Thank you so much. Keep it creepy.
Mwahahaha.
Sinisterhood.